I am a little bit different than you. I suffer from an overabundance of confidence. I am disappointed that I didn't make the New York Times #1 bestseller the first day that the book was out. Even though it's a niche topic, how to sell your house, how to buy a house, I still expected to be like, I thought Barack Obama was going to mention it in his State of the Union address, and he did not. So I had a little bit of work to do for the next book.
Okay, so fair to say you do not suffer from imposter syndrome.
So that's not actually true. I'm a pretty interesting dichotomy. I have an overabundance of confidence, and also I work with Brandon Turner. He's unbelievable. And I used to compare myself to him. It's only been very recently that I have stopped comparing myself to him because I'm not him. We don't have the same goals. We don't have the same history. So all of the experiences he had that shaped his life are not the same experiences that I had that shaped mine. So I shouldn't compare myself to him, and have recently stopped. And now I'm like, you know what? My voice will speak to certain people. And there are enough voices out there that there is a voice for everyone. So if my voice isn't what you want to hear, that's okay. I can give you 50 other people to go listen to who will say the same but different message. I just want the message of financial independence and getting your financial house in order so you can free that mental space up to think about other things. I want that message to get through. And whoever speaks the language that you hear is all. I am successful when you get the message, no matter who says it.
I agree with that 100%, Mindy. That's what this group is all about. And just to kind of give you a little bit of background on the group, if you're not completely aware, but I know that you are a little bit. The Sheeks Freaks Mastermind is a group of young hustlers and grinders from all across the country, mostly between 15 and 25 years old, but they are all rock stars and they are crushing it. Just before you popped on, we had check-ins, and we have people doing 3 wholesale deals in a week. And we have people about ready to close on working with an investment company, about ready to close on an apartment complex. And we have people who are, Leo's got 1 million TikTok followers. I mean, it's crazy what these young people are doing. And it's also very fun to watch. It's also very fun to watch and to be a little piece of that. So we love when guests come on. So thanks for being here and taking time out of your Sunday evening. I'm guessing that looks kind of like a hotel bed.
It is. So we had planned to come up. We're up in Keystone, and we had planned to come up here. And I was like, I'll just remember. I don't remember. If you don't write it down, you won't remember. There's my first tip. If you want to remember something, write it down. And even though you do remember when it happens, always write it down. So I am up in Keystone, and I have at least an hour to chat with people who have 1 million TikTok followers and are doing 3 wholesale deals a week. However, I want to say, even if your check-in today wasn't like, hey, look at me, I'm crushing it. You know what? Today, I'm not crushing it either. So It's totally okay to have a steady, like solid week of not super success. It's always moving forward is the success.
Yeah. It's like you said, you can't compare yourself to other people's successes and their success rate, because we all have different journeys and we have different backgrounds and we have different ways of doing what we do. But so that's what the Mastermind's all about. We're very happy to have you. Thanks for being here. And
I'm so honored you would ask.
Yeah. And it was great to meet you at FinCon, finally, to see the Mindy Jensen in person. And have a drink with you and hang out a little bit. And I'm sorry that you have to deal with Scott on an almost daily basis. That's got to be tough.
Scott is another one of those guys. I can't believe now he's 30, but I met him and he was like 25 or something. I'm like, really? You're only 25? His brain is so big. He's so smart. I am not 25. I know it looks like it, but I'm not 25. I'm probably as old as all of your moms. I am going to be 49 at the end of the month. And age doesn't matter. Scott Trench is one of the smartest people I know, and I'm old enough to be his mother and almost not his teen mom. He was born, and then I graduated from high school. No. I graduated from high school, and then he was born. Mm-hmm. So age is like, all you people are young on this call, and that's fabulous. I was not at the place you are at your age right now. And that's okay. That doesn't make my journey less valid, but you guys are crushing it. And anybody who like judges you based on your age is not somebody you need to have in your life.
Yep.
But yes, getting to work with Scott. I get to work with Scott on a daily basis.
He is a pretty smart dude. That's for sure.
Yeah. He's
and he's a pretty nice guy, and he tells horrible jokes.
Oh my God. Oh,
but
I could change one thing about Scott.
If we ever get to have a joke off, though, I would totally kick his ass, because I have teacher jokes that go on for pages and pages and pages. And they're now dad jokes because I have a son, but I would crush him. Just so you know. So what we normally do when we have a guest on is we usually have them tell their story for 5 or 10 minutes, and then we open it up for questions. I'm going to leave it up to you, Mindy. You can tell your story. But I also think what these young people would find almost equally as interesting is maybe a little bit of the background of Bigger Pockets, what it's like to work there. What was it like in the beginning days? Because you've been at Bigger Pockets quite a while. What is a day in the life at Bigger Pockets like? Like if you were in the office, which I know during COVID, not many people are, but something around that. Or, you could just talk about, what you see yourself doing in the next 5 to 10 around financial independence and in real estate investing and stuff like that.
Wow. So there's a bunch of stuff that you just threw at me. I'm going to say that I was born in a small town in Southern Illinois, and then I moved. And I moved and I moved and I moved and I moved and I moved. And I realized that moving is not a big deal. And my main way to invest in real estate is through the live-in flip, which means I move into a very unattractive house. I rehab it while I'm living there. And when I have lived in it for 2 years, and hopefully it's done then, but not always. But if I have lived in it for at least 2 years, the IRS says you owe us no taxes on the capital gain on the difference between what you bought it for, what you put into it, and what you sold it for, up to $250,000 if you are single, and up to $500,000 if you are married. I am married. I am hoping that someday I have to pay taxes on my flip, because that means I have made $500,000 in gains on a property. And that hasn't happened yet, but I'm really, really hopeful that it will. So basically, I live in a construction zone for a while, and it's not always the most fun. Sometimes it can be really, really, really tedious. But when I'm cashing $100,000 checks, it makes it a whole lot easier to live in that construction zone. And I am currently in my 10th live-in flip. And I think it's a really great way. It's another option to house hack. There's the buy more house than you need and rent out the extra parts. This one, I don't have any roommates except for my husband and my kids. I just live in a house that needs some work, and anybody can paint a wall. Anybody can install flooring, carpet, hire that out. But if you're installing wood flooring or like laminate flooring, ceramic tile, you can do that. It's not that hard. And you can take an unattractive house and make it beautiful for very little money. That is my main way of investing in real estate. I also do some syndications, but right now with the market being so hot, the big apartment buyers are having a hard time finding a good deal. So syndications aren't my favorite. I don't really think that they're applicable here. If everybody is on the younger side to invest in syndications, you most likely need to be an accredited investor, and that's either making $200,000 a year as a single person or having $1 million of net worth, not including your primary residence, which is not something that I hit when I was in, what did you say, 15 to 25? I was not 15 to 25 when I hit $1 million in net worth. So, and frankly, syndications right now, I'm looking at one syndication provider or sponsor just because I have a history with him, but I have a history with several other syndication sponsors. And it's just not that exciting. What they're showing me, I'm like, ugh, I could kind of do that, in an index fund in the stock market, and set it and forget it and not have to worry about anything. So we're not really excited about syndications right now. So I'll skip over that. The history of Bigger Pockets. I worked at Bigger Pockets. I've been there for 6 years. I worked there. I think I'm employee number 11 or 13. I can't remember. I'd have to do the math. I don't really want to. It doesn't matter. 11 or 13. I was one of the very first employees there. And when I started there, it was a startup. We worked in a co-working space with a bunch of other people. It was very much a brand new company sort of feel to it. I started in 2015. When I started, there was the Bigger Pockets real estate podcast. It had been around for a couple of years. And we had a 100 episode short-lived podcast called Ask BP. And people would send in a question and we would answer that question in the podcast itself. It's still up if you want to take a listen to, random questions about real estate. Brandon and I did a lot of them. I think Scott Trench answered a few questions, and maybe even Josh Dorkin, who was the founder of Bigger Pockets. I guess he still is the founder of Bigger Pockets. You don't stop, but he's no longer working day to day with the company. A typical day would be, so I was hired to be in the forums. I go into the Bigger Pockets forums and I talk to people. I answer questions. I pull down comments that violate our rules. Sometimes people are very mean to other people. We're trying to promote a welcoming community, and hey, you have a question, ask it. We want you to do the right thing. It can seem like, oh, I own this rental property. My tenants stopped paying rent. I could just turn off the electricity. That's actually called a self-help eviction, and it's illegal in all 50 states. So we want people, but you don't know what you don't know. So we want people to be okay asking those questions, and we want people to answer respectfully. Hey, that's a self-help eviction, as opposed to, you're such a jerk. I can't believe you would even suggest that. Like, there are some people who answer that way, and I come in and I'm like, nope, you can hide that. I will hide that question because I want people to ask questions. You will only learn the answer when you ask a question. So I want people to be able to feel free to ask that question. If you ask a question and somebody's mean to you, you might not ever ask another question. We have a forum. We have a blog. We had a blog at the time. So when I started, we had one podcast, the forums, the blog, and member blogs. And now we have 5 podcasts. We have the blog, the member blogs. We have a rather robust series of social media, including Instagram and Facebook groups. And we're not so much active on Twitter anymore. I think we were really active on Twitter, and that was it. And we're just here to share the message that real estate investing is accessible to everybody. We want you to do it right. We want you to do it within the landlord-tenant laws. This last year and a half of COVID has really strained the landlord-tenant laws and the willingness to follow them. I mean, if somebody has been living in your house for 18 months and they haven't paid rent, you could really be frustrated with them. You could really be in a financial hardship position yourself, because you still have to pay your mortgage, even though they're not paying the rent, which you may be counting on to pay your mortgage. So the United States shut down on March 13th, 2020 for that, 6 months, 6 weeks, whatever period of time. The next day, people were in the forums saying, how do I pay my April rent or April mortgage? And I'm like, whoa. Mm-hmm. It's March 13th. You should already have your April mortgage payment in the bank, along with May and June. And like, you're providing housing for people. You need to have a plan in place to provide that housing. So over the last year and a half, it's been a lot of learning the individual states' landlord-tenant laws and seeing who is more tenant-friendly and who is more landlord-friendly, and just helping people navigate this really crazy time that we're in. Recently, my job has transitioned to the Bigger Pockets Money podcast full-time, and that entire vertical. So blog posts about money, videos about money. I wonder what that video is called. I don't know what the short link is. I'm going to look it up right now. I made a video called Money Moves to Make in Your 20s or something like that. Let me find that, because that's a really good one for everybody who is here, because you're in your age 15 or 20. And oh, there's Managing Money in Your 40s. Let's go back to the 20s. Where is that? It is what I think to be a really great video, because it talks about things. I talk about the compound interest and how you guys are, and girls, I'm not being sexist, you all are uniquely positioned to take advantage of to take advantage of compound interest in a way that Dan and I are not so much. So compound interest is the money that you have invested, it grows, and then the next year, the growth, original plus the growth grows again, and the original plus the growth grows again. And in the beginning, it doesn't really make that much difference. Like if you invest $1 at 10%, the next year you have a whole $1.10. But as it grows, it starts to grow almost hockey stick like, and you are in a position to have an enormous amount of wealth in your later years just by money mastery moves that you make right now. And I didn't mean to start everything with an M there, it just happened. But I read an article when I was in my 20s and didn't take the advice and didn't do anything with it. But it said, if you invest $2,000 a year from $2,000 a year from the time you're 22 till the time that you're 30, and then you never invest another dime, that's $8,000 whole dollars, or no, $16,000 over 8 years, $2,000 a year, $16,000, and you never invest another dime, you will have more money when you're age 65 than if you invest $4,000 a year from the time you are 30 till the time you are 65. So 8 years of investment versus 35 years of investment, you'll have more at the end of the time frame. And it didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, I'm going to run this through some retirement calculator numbers. And it came up actually true. And math doesn't lie. If you invest $2,000, assuming 10% returns, I think it's something like $700,000 when you're 65. That's all if you only invest that little bit of time, that little bit of money, those 8 years. So I really, really encourage all of you to, if you have what's called earned income, meaning you have a job or you have some way to earn the income as opposed to a parent giving you the income, or you have inherited the income. If you have earned income, find a way to max out your Roth IRA every single year from now until you turn 30 or 40 or forever. I'm still maxing out my Roth IRA. Your Roth IRA contribution limits are $6,000 a year. That's $500 a month. If you get paid twice a month, that's $250 a pay period. It's $125 a week. It's $25 a day. You can find this money if you're looking for it. And this will set you up for life. Have they had to read Set for Life yet?
I haven't given it as an assignment, but I think a lot of them have read it. I know a lot of them have read it.
Yeah. I will give it as an assignment. If you are in this mastermind group and you have not yet read Scott Trench's Set for Life book, it is an amazing book. I get nothing for recommending it. It's just a different way to think about money. And you might know people who are your age who don't think of money the same way, or, oh, you should just spend it all and you could save for your retirement later. You can save a very little bit of money right now and have your whole financial future set. So when you turn 30, 35, 40, 45, you can do whatever you want because your finances are already taken care of. So you asked me several things. You said the history of Bigger Pockets, my story, and what was the other thing?
I think you kind of answered it. It was kind of what's going on, or what are you up to in the next 5 to 10 years as far as your real estate investment strategy? Are you just going to keep doing the live and fix and flips, or more syndication?
So I'm at a position where I'm always open to something. But right now I'm having syndication deals that they aren't so great. I bought them a few years ago. They're getting ready to sell, and we will get all of the money that they pitched us in the proposal, but it didn't perform very well. So I don't syndications unless it's with one guy who's really been able to do everything that he said he was able to do. I have a partnership with somebody. We bought a house together. We were going to sell or finance it to buyers. And our last buyer, we've had 3 buyers. 2 of them just said, hey, I can't make these payments anymore. I'm leaving. I moved out. And the way that the deal was structured is I sell it to you for a low down payment. You make payments to me and then eventually refinance. They never got to the refinance part. The 3rd person that we sold it to is now suing us because she touched a live wire and got electrocuted. And I thought electrocuted means dead, but she's still alive. So, and I'm making light of this situation. I'm sorry that she got hurt, but she's now saying, I'm not paying any more of the mortgage. You owe me all of my money back. All of my health problems are due to the house. And I don't really know why she would think that. But now the sale of the home has been held up based on all of this. So I kind of got burned in a partnership. And now I just have to wait it out. Locally, I have sold all of my local real estate holdings. And now I'm looking on one specific street to buy a house because the houses there have small yards. So there's very little maintenance. I know several people who already live on the street. So I have somebody to keep an eye on my property for me. And I would just turn it into a short-term rental. I own part of a co-working, and there's a steady stream of people who want to move to my town and need a place to stay for the short term. So that would be able to generate a lot of rentals there. Now I just have to wait for somebody to want to sell their house there. Going forward, right now, we are really investing heavily in index funds. And my husband is super geeked on Tesla, so we keep buying a little bit of Tesla stock, but mainly index funds because they are so set it and forget it. You put your money in and then you just do nothing and it continues to grow. And of course, past performance is not indicative of future gains, but I do really want to encourage everybody to look into the stock market for diversification, because I don't believe that you should plant all of your eggs in the real estate basket. I did live through 2008 and I watched, before 2008, real estate always went up and to the right. It never didn't grow. So it came, everybody's like, wait, what? My real estate's worth less, but it always goes up. So I don't get quite the same vibes now that I did then, but we're just beginning to come out of the foreclosure moratorium and the eviction moratorium. And I get this newsletter from a data company through my work at Bigger Pockets. They want me to write an article about it. It's like top secret until midnight that night. So the latest one they sent was the foreclosure moratorium is gone. And now foreclosures are up double digits every single. And you have to take that with a grain of salt. We had 4 evictions and now there are 5 evictions. Technically it's up 25%, but it's still only like the numbers still really, really low. I'm hopeful that they won't go crazy because when somebody goes through foreclosure, they're having a really difficult financial time. But on the other hand, when there's a lot of foreclosures, then prices start to get a little bit depressed. So it's, kind of a squidgy situation. I'm not hoping for negative financial straits for anybody, but I also don't see how foreclosures can't increase exponentially just based on all the people who weren't able to pay their mortgage in the pandemic. So I'm keeping my options open, but right now my money is sitting in the stock market because it's having a great run. And of course, past performance is not indicative of future gains, but it's really been on an enormous tear for a long time. So I'm excited about that.
All right. Before we get into some Q&A, one thing you said, I forgot that when you first came to Bigger Pockets, you were kind of in charge of the community, the forums, and you policed that. So about 8 or 9 months ago, I got in trouble on the Bigger Pockets forums. I was posting a similar message to a lot of young people. And I've done this many, many times, trying to get them, to come into the Sheeks Freaks Mastermind, all for a good cause. But I was basically promoting my own online community, which is free, but I don't remember who it was. They didn't like that. So I had to reword my message that I was sending all these young people so that it wasn't like I was trying to sell something off of the Bigger Pockets website. But we're all in we have good graces now. All right. So what I want to do for the rest of the time, Mindy, is open it up for questions, because I know we'll have some good ones. I think we have 25 people on here. Yes. So what normally works best is if you could open your chat, Mindy, and freaks out there, if you want to type any questions into the chat, Mindy will see them there, and she can, Mindy, if you just want to read the question and then answer it, and we'll do the best we can. So we'll give them a minute or two to type their questions. Sorry, someone was.
Daniel Philpott shared a link to a compound interest article that I wrote. And then I also shared a link to the Money Moves in Your 20s video that I just made. Seth wants to know what was my worst live-in flip. So way back in 2006, I bought a house in Madison, Wisconsin. Madison, Wisconsin has two lakes in kind of the downtown area, and I lived on one of them. I bought a house for $535,000, and we were going to make it a $1 million house when we sold it. It was on the lake. It had a really nice flat lake frontage. It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house with a big basement, and we were popping the top and adding 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms upstairs and removing 1 bedroom downstairs to make more of a dining room area. And we bought it for $535,000. We hired people who lived 45 minutes away because they were the cheapest bid, which is red flag number 1. Don't go with the cheapest bid just because they're the cheapest bid. These people would take the slow road up. They would start at 9:00, but they'd start at 9:00 in the 45 minutes away town. They take the slow road up. They would do some work and then they would go home. And the 3-month timeline to pop the top turned into a 6-month delay. And we lost our head guy because it turns out he was a raging alcoholic and would come to the work site drunk. If you ever have a worker who is drunk at your site, immediately stop work and call the boss and be like, get this guy off of my property, because it is a huge liability. It just went on and on and on. Then I don't know if you caught the timeline. 2006 is when we bought it. So right at the very top of the market. Mm-hmm. And then 2007, 2008, we sold it in 2012. And it took us 18 months to sell this house. We did it at FSBO because we wanted to save money. And we ended up, instead of our $1 million, we made $100,000 on the flip, but we were projecting like $400,000. So it was a timeline that we couldn't control. It was picking the wrong contractors. There was a lot of things that went wrong just in general. Oh, so they pulled the roof. It was a brand new roof. They pulled the roof off the house to pop the top, and they put tarps over the house. And this was back in 2006. Now we have, Wonderground, Weather Underground, and different weather apps. But at the time, we didn't really have anything to predict the weather. And we had a 500-year storm, which means basically there was water everywhere. Like there was water coming in the light fixtures on the main floor, because before the weather came in, the tarps ran through and ripped all over the place. And I had a 4-month-old baby, and there was one spot right in the middle of the bed that wasn't getting rained on. So I could put her in the bed and then try and desperately keep this water out of my house. But it was pretty much a stress ball from 2007 when the baby was born, and we moved up there till 2012 when we sold it. And I'm so glad to be rid of it. The there were a lot of problems, in hindsight, but don't ever hire the contractor who gives you the cheapest bid just because they're the cheapest. That's all the stuff I learned from that in a nutshell. What Dan Sheeks wants to know, what process do I use to write a book? Oh, I guess that's you. I sit down and I make an outline. I know that this is the headline that I'm thinking about. And the headline is very like how to sell your house. It's not that creative. How to buy a house. Well, step one, set your parameters. Step two, find an agent. Step three, find a lender. And then underneath those big 1, 2, 3s, there are subcategories. And when you really break it down into the categories and subcategories and each little thing to talk about, it kind of writes itself, because you go in, you're like, find a lender. Well, how do you find a lender? You call up a bunch of lenders. What kind of lenders? Well, you want to go to big lenders and small lenders and credit unions. And, you get all of these, you break it down, and you can kind of simplify the whole book writing process just by making a really detailed outline. Because when you do the 1, 2, 3, and you're like, oh, wait, I also want to talk about 4. And then you're kind of building these out. Ooh, I got to build this part out too. Ooh, I got to do this. So really take the time to write out your outline and make sure you cover all the things you want to cover. And then as you're filling in the outline, it just kind of, writes itself. But again, I've written books based on knowledge that I have through years of doing it.
All right, I'm gonna thanks for that answer. I was just kind of curious for my own benefit, but I want to interrupt for a minute, because if I don't do it now, I will forget, because I've already forgot a couple times. I'm going to change my view here. What we like to do is take a screenshot. There we go. And so a lot of the members will take a screenshot of everyone and post it on social media and say, I was talking to Mindy Jensen today. It was so awesome. And so if everyone wants to get ready to do that, including myself, we'll do it on the count of 3. So lots of smiles and thumbs up or whatever. I don't know, whatever you want to do. On 3, 1, 2, 3. All right. That was just a little commercial break. Now, Mindy, back to you.
Okay. Benjamin Carver is asking about rentals and law changes in the Colorado mountains. I know you mentioned Airbnb. So I will say that if you are thinking about buying a short-term rental, you want to listen to episode 364 of the Real Estate Podcast, which is featuring Avery Carl, and she has an enormous amount of information in that podcast episode. She also just wrote a book for Bigger Pockets called something about short-term rentals. It's about short-term rentals. I can't remember what the exact name is. Law changes in the Colorado mountains. I am not exactly familiar with the law changes in the Colorado mountains, but I am currently up here in the mountains, and I was trying to get into a couple of properties to see them. I would like to buy a second property up here that when I'm not here, I am using for Airbnb. And one of the things that Avery mentioned in her episode was, if you're looking to buy a short-term rental, buying a property where they already have their established short-term rental laws is going to be far more successful than places. So I live in Longmont. We had no short-term rental laws, and then people were buying up houses like crazy and short-term renting them, and the neighbors were like, not in my backyard. So then the city council changed the laws a little bit. We're close enough to Rocky Mountain National Park that there is still a really big demand for short-term rentals in and around Longmont. So they couldn't just, they could do whatever they want, but they didn't want to just slam the door shut. So now you can have one short-term rental property that is not out of your primary residence. Whereas in Avery Carl rents and or owns in the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee, they have been a tourist destination forever. So they already have their short-term rental laws in place. I'm looking up in Breckenridge and Frisco, and those are right by the ski resorts. They already have their short-term rental laws in place. So if you're looking for a short-term rental, to hold for the long term, buying in a place that's already a tourist destination where they rely on having rental properties available for people is going to give you the most amount of success in your short-term rental business. And I don't know about the law changes in the mountains, so I would have to look into that more in the specific cities. Every city's laws will be, I mean, you just Google it, Breckenridge short-term rental laws, or, you know, Frisco short-term rental laws, and see what they say. But when the city counts on tourist dollars, you can pretty much assume that there is going to be very pro short-term rental laws in place. Was that helpful, Benjamin?
Yes, it was. Thank you so much. That answered a lot of my questions.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Kay wants to know if you could give your beginner RE investing self one piece of advice, what would it be? Frankly, it would be get your real estate license. And I want to expand on this a little bit. I love being a real estate agent. I've been an agent for 7 years, 6 years, something like that. And I love showing houses. I love looking at houses. The whole reason I got my agent license was so that I could go into houses whenever I wanted. However, I am also using it to help other people buy houses. And if you are not interested in helping people buy houses, then I don't think that having your license is necessarily a great idea. I have to take 24 hours of continuing education every 3 years, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I always end up taking my year update course on December 29th, which isn't helpful at all. I should take it on January 1st. And I have to pay fees. I have to have MLS access. That's $600 a year. I have to have, I hang my license under a more experienced agent, and you are required to do so for the first 2 or 3 years of your licensure. Some agents require you to share a percentage of your commission. Some agencies like mine charge a set fee. I think I pay $295 per transaction. So there are fees involved in getting your license. There are fees involved in keeping your license. You need to stay up to date on all the laws that surround your licensure. However, if you help one person buy a house every year, or you use your license to buy a house and either get the credit of the commission towards the purchase price, or you get it back in cash, you are ahead of the game. So that's something that I would absolutely want to do. I wish I could go back in time and get my real estate license like 20 years ago. Oh, and learn how to run numbers. Just because a property is for sale for cheap doesn't make it a good deal. Just because a property would rent out for a lot of money doesn't make it a good deal. Get really, really good at running your numbers and be willing to walk away from any deal, because there's another house out there that'll work for you. Jaziel, am I saying that right? I hope I am. What do you do when you find yourself in mental slumps? I'm really not a good person to answer this because I am a pretty positive person and I don't really find myself in a lot of mental slumps. I'm sorry that that's not a really good answer. I know it's a kind of a garbage answer. Sorry. But I'm just always really happy. I mean, I'm alive. It's pretty awesome. It's better than the alternative. Isaiah wants to know, how did you actually get the job to work at Bigger Pockets? Okay, so I will try to keep this really, really low because I could talk forever about this. I attend a conference every year. It's called FinCon. It's a financial conference. My husband and I had a blog about finances, and we came upon this conference in 2013. I tried to go to a session every time there was a session available, and I misread the headline of this session, or I misunderstood what they were trying to teach. And I walked into a session where Josh Dorkin and Brandon Turner were teaching, I think it was like how to take your blog and move it to a larger hosting company. I'm like, oh, I don't need this information. My blog has like 9 readers. So I got up to leave, and I was in the very front row, all the way on the inside. And I stood up and I'm like, every single person like they're standing room only in this session, and everybody here knows who these people are except me. So I guess I'm going to learn this today because I don't want to be rude and like interrupt their session. And they started talking about how there were like blah, 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 our website, blah, blah, blah. We have a website where people talk about real estate investing. And I have loved real estate forever. And I never got my license because I didn't want to pay 50% of my commission to my broker, which is actually an outdated concept. But at the time, I didn't know that. And I was like, wait, you have a website where people talk about real estate investing? Nobody talks about real estate investing in real life. I'm not going to tell Benjamin about some deal that I found because he's going to go steal it from me, right, Benjamin? So, I couldn't believe this was a thing. And I went onto the website and I was like, I can't believe this is a real thing. And I would read all the forums, and I didn't want to create an account because I didn't want it to be one of those, oh, give us your credit card, we won't charge it. And then finally somebody was like asking a question, like, I just have to make an account and answer this question. And I was a stay-at-home mom. I had 2 little girls. I had no business talking about real estate online, but I couldn't help myself. And then one day they posted that they were looking for somebody. They're like, hey, Mindy Jensen, we're looking for exactly you. And I was like, man, my kid's not in kindergarten yet. I can't get a job. And they kept posting this job. And I'm like, I got to just apply and see what happens. So I applied. They're like, oh, we'll wait for you. You're absolutely perfect. They're like, send us your resume. I'm like, ooh, my resume includes I bought and sold quilting supplies, and I was a graphic designer, neither of which like prepares me to be a community manager for Bigger Pockets. But here's all the real estate deals that I've done. So I am going to say that if you see a job at biggerpockets.com/jobs, go ahead and apply for it, because we're not going to call you up and say, hey, are you looking for a job? But we might call you up if you apply. Like, we don't know Benjamin needs a job until he tells us he needs a job. So, and that's for every company. Like, if you see a job that sounds interesting, apply for it, pitch yourself for it. Having a W-2 employment is going to get you a lot more loan opportunities to buy more real estate than just being a real estate investor, which is not just being a real estate investor, but Bigger Pockets is hiring, FYI. So yeah, I applied for a job that I knew I was innately qualified for, but I didn't have you have to make a video. I don't know how to make a video. Now I do. None of this is that high. If I can figure it out, y'all already know how to do all that stuff. Okay, Sarah wants to know my thoughts on Congress's current budget reconciliation deal concerning the IRA. I haven't heard a ton about this. I know that they are considering getting rid of the 1031 exchange for people who make more than $400,000 a year. I don't know that any of us are in that tax bracket right now. I'm not, so that doesn't affect me, but also I do live-in flips, which aren't acceptable or aren't able to be 1031 exchanged because they're my primary residence. I'm not sure what their budget reconciliation deal concerning the IRA is. Sarah, do you have any additional information about that?
So I'm in a local RIA, and they were talking about limiting the contribution to your Roth IRA. You were talking about doing maxing it out every year, and they were talking about capping that or something. I wasn't really sure if you had more information because I'm still trying to figure it out myself.
So we talked to Kyle Mast, who is a certified financial planner, on episode 200 of the Bigger Pockets Money podcast. And he had a lot of really great ideas for several things. But one of the things he suggested is that Congress has been writing a lot of checks in the form of stimulus to all of Americans. And it's in the trillions of dollars that they wrote checks for and now have to come up with funding to kind of cover those checks that they wrote. And one of the things that's being pitched is potentially removing the Roth option for the IRA. And what that does is, right now, when you contribute to a Roth, you have up to $6,000 every year that you pay taxes on now. And if you guys are age 15 to 25, chances are really, really good that you're going to be making more money down the road. You're going to be in a higher tax bracket down the road. So you'll be paying more taxes to contribute those $6,000 after tax dollars. Right now, you contribute them and it grows tax-free. You already paid your taxes. So Peter Thiel is a venture capitalist or angel investor or something like that. Anyway, he invented PayPal, and he held his PayPal shares in his Roth IRA because they were worth like a penny a share or something. And now he's got $5 billion in his Roth IRA. He paid taxes on the penny a share stuff way back in like the 90s. And now his $5 billion has grown tax-free. He can withdraw that at any time and pay no taxes on it. It's not a loophole, it's a legitimate thing, but Congress is considering curtailing that or cutting it out altogether. It's not a huge thing to do to voters specifically, but it could generate a lot more in potential taxes down the road. So my thought is contribute to a Roth IRA as much as you can for as long as you can, because it has income limits. If you start making, I think it's $139,000 a year as a single person and $209,000 as a married couple, if that's your modified adjusted gross income, you can no longer contribute to a Roth IRA at all. So for as long as you are I am low enough in my income that I can contribute to a Roth IRA, my recommendation is to contribute as much as you can. I would even go so far as when you're young and presuming you don't have kids, crank it out right now and get a second job to be able to fund your Roth IRA in full. It's so valuable. I mean, Peter Thiel there were a lot of people who were angry when Peter Thiel did this loophole. Well, when he contributed to it, that doesn't mean PayPal is going to go anywhere. Maybe it went the way of Flues, which none of you are old enough to remember, except maybe Dan. Flues was some online currency, and it is no longer because it didn't work out. So PayPal could have totally not worked out. And then he would have zero in his Roth IRA. So if you have the opportunity to invest in a Roth IRA, I would say do it as far as you can. Daniel Philpott is asking, could you talk more about 2008 versus now? What parallels are you seeing, if any? Maybe specifically regarding appreciation and market growth. Seems like everywhere is shooting up in value. Is that justified? Thank you for throwing me 500 things at once. I love to talk about this, and I hope that I cover everything, so I'm going to go back and forth. What parallels am I seeing? I'm seeing the market going up and the market going up. This is 2008. This is current. The market is just going crazy, but there are different reasons. So in 2008, you could go into a bank and say, I would like a loan. And they're like, here's a bunch of money. They didn't. It was called a ninja loan, no income, no job applicant. You didn't have to have anything, and they would approve you for this ridiculous loan. There is an investment vehicle called the mortgage-backed security. Somebody buys up a bunch of mortgages. Traditionally, people pay their mortgage. It's a solid investment. Somebody would buy up these mortgages, package them together, and sell this as an investment. And you could buy shares in this investment. And then they ran out of mortgages to buy. So they're like, hey, lenders, be all loosey-goosey with your approvals. So the lenders would allow Daniel Philpott with his $15,000 a year part-time job because he's still in high school to take out a $400,000 mortgage on a property. And then Daniel would make 1 or 0 mortgage payments, and then it went into foreclosure. But there were so many foreclosures that Daniel could continue to live there for a really long time. So that caused instability in the housing market, and it actually has an effect now. In 2008, the market crashed. 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010. When the market crashed, there was a bunch of houses everywhere. There was this goes back to, sorry for the history lesson. This goes back to 2000. When was September 11th, 2001? This goes back to 2001. September 11th happened, and everybody was like, oh my God, the sky is falling. And the government said, hey, let's give you super low interest rates. Before that happened, your mortgage interest was like 6%, 5%. I just refinanced my loan to 2.875, and that's the lowest mortgage I've ever had in my whole life. And I've had a bunch of mortgages. And mortgages have stayed low since then. Well, when there's low mortgages, people want to buy houses. They'll pay a little bit more because their mortgage payment isn't going to be that much different than the 5% mortgage I could have gotten 6 months ago. And now it's only 3%. I could buy more. So prices went up. And as prices go up, builders are like, ooh, I'm going to build more houses. So they started building more houses and prices kept going up, and they built more houses and prices went up. And then 2007, 2008, 2009, all these builders are like, I am sitting on these houses and nobody will buy them. And all of the buyers are saying, well, I'm not going to buy your brand new house when I can get this other house that's 2 years old for half the price because it's in foreclosure. So builders went out of business 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011. Think about it. In your area, when did they start building new subdivisions again? In my area, we bottomed out in like 10, 11. So prices started going up very slowly in 2012, 13, 14. Then they started going up a little bit more. We started finally building houses 2014, 2015. But that's from 2008 to 2014, that's 6 years of not building anything. And then now we're starting to see people, it was this year, this spring, that the market really ramped up into high gear. And now the prices are coming from a position of there's nothing to buy. So the parameters were very different that caused the run up in prices. And I don't see it changing anytime soon. And I wish it would, because as a real estate agent who primarily specializes in buyers, it's really hard to get somebody under contract right now. It's starting to soften a little bit, but also people who are looking for houses typically aren't looking in the middle of the school year. So the spring selling season is when everybody starts ramping up again. Houses are on the market. There's a lot of houses on the market. People are buying them because they want to be moved in summer so they can start the new school in the fall. So maybe specifically regarding appreciation and market growth. Right now, there's a lot of appreciation, but also there's nothing on the market. I look at my local town, there's 45 houses for my friend who wants to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house under $750,000. There were 45 houses on the market. Some of them totally didn't work for them. Some of them were, fixer-uppers. Some of them were not like the layout that they were looking for. I narrowed it down to 14, and then they narrowed it down to 0. There's just not a lot on the market. And a normal market would probably have 250 or 300 houses in that same parameter. So let's see, could you talk more about 2008 versus now? What parallels are you seeing, if any? I'm just seeing a lot of growth, but for 2008, it was growth because everybody wanted to buy a house and, oh, I can get a mortgage for, whatever. And now I'm seeing growth because it is, there's nothing to buy. And seems like everywhere is shooting up in value. Is that justified? It's the law of supply and demand. Right now, there's huge demand and no supply. So prices are going to go up. And it's going to take a while for builders to catch up. I think I answered your question. Did you have any additional ones before I move on to Isaiah?
No, that's great, Mindy. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you. Isaiah Pearson wants to know, how do you have fun for no and low money? I am going to send you to episode 6. I think it's episode 6. Now I have to look that up, of the Bigger Pockets Money podcast, where we interviewed Sarah Wilson, who is episode 6. She was making $30,000 a year, paying off $33,000 of student loans. And actually, I say 30,000. She just clarified it. It hasn't come out yet. She was making $26,000 a year, paying off $10,000 a year in student loans. And she's living on $16,000 a year. She had a lot of fun by inviting people over to her house. Something that sticks out to me every time I eat baked potatoes. Now I think of her. She would invite people over and have a baked potato party. So Daniel comes over and he brings the baked potatoes. A bag of potatoes is like $5 for a 10-pound bag. All of you can eat for $5 on a 10-pound bag of potatoes. But then we have Benjamin would bring the butter, and Sarah would bring bacon, and Ricardo would bring broccoli, and Dan would bring cheese. And so everybody's contributing $3 or $5 and having this great big, very filling meal, and there's probably a lot of leftovers. Game night, you can go to a thrift store and buy 57 different kinds of games, and they don't always have the same, all the pieces, but buy a couple of those and mix and match until you get a whole great game. I learned this game. I really hate the name of it because I grew up in Chicago, and when very politically at times, I apologize in advance, but to say something derogatory to somebody, you'd be like, "Oh, you're so Polish." And that's not a very nice thing to say. And this poker game is called Polish poker. And I hope it's just because somebody in Poland invented it, and it's not like being mean because it's not totally like drawn out poker, but it's like 6 different cards and you use 2 decks of cards. What's a deck of cards? 99 cents? Or let's say it's $5 for a deck of cards. I haven't actually bought any in a while. But so for $10, you have a game that you can play over and over again. My 11-year-old, my 14-year-old, my husband and I we all love this game, and we can play this for hours. It is, go hiking. We live by the Rocky Mountains. Go out there and hike. Like, go up to Boulder and hike. There's beautiful hiking trails everywhere. Just walk around downtown. I don't know. Are you guys down in Denver? Or are you down in Cherry Creek area, Dan?
They are from all across the country.
Oh, all across the country. Okay, there's a hiking trail by you, I promise.
Yeah.
But like, I'm looking at a nice little paved hiking trail. We went on some dirt hiking trails. You can ride your bike. If you don't have a bike, you can go get a really cheap bike at a thrift store. You can go for walks. You can go, read books. I love the thrift store. There are so many fun things to do there. Learn how to knit. Make me a sweater. I'll wear it on a podcast and even give you credit. There's a lot of things that you can do for low and no money. And it's just, you can find ways to spend money. Going to the movies is, what is it, $10 for a ticket. And then you have to have popcorn. I think it's a law. That's like another $50 or something. So that's a lot of money. Or you could invite friends over and have a screening of Marvel movies or whatever for Disney Plus, which is $8 a month. So get it for a month, and every Friday have somebody come over, and they can bring the potatoes too, because you're providing the movie. There's a lot of ways to have a lot of fun. Go to open houses. We're all in real estate, right? Go to open houses every Sunday. That's a lot of fun. And then Isaiah also says, I am a beginner at learning about health and dental insurance. How do you cover and learn about those two as an entrepreneur budgeting freak? Okay, I am assuming that you are young and healthy, but even if you are not healthy, I was talking about the HSA, what does HSA stand for? The high deductible,
health savings account, I think.
Health savings account.
But it is a high deductible plan, yeah.
Yeah. So if you have insurance through your parents, that's fantastic. If you do not have insurance through your parents, try to get it through work. There are places like Costco and Starbucks that provide health insurance to their maybe not quite full-time employees. If you have the option to get a high deductible healthcare plan, which means like you are on the bill, you foot the bill for the first, $15,000 of any procedure that you're having. You go to a doctor, it costs $120. That all comes out of your pocket. I was talking about this on the podcast, and I said, maybe having a high deductible plan isn't the best for somebody with a chronic condition. And somebody wrote in and said, I sell insurance for a living. I ran all the numbers, and there's a very narrow band where having a high deductible plan doesn't work out. But for almost everybody, even with people who have chronic conditions, having a high deductible plan and the money that you're saving on the premium will help cover the amount of your deductible. So I would look into a high deductible savings plan. Dental insurance, if you are brushing your teeth, if you are flossing your teeth using fluoride toothpaste every single day, morning and night, you should have good dental hygiene. And maybe you can get away with dental insurance this year and not dental insurance next year. And like every other year swapping out in order to save a little bit of money. But also go to a dental school near you and talk to them about, I don't know how to phrase this, like being a test patient. And you're not like, it's not day one of dental school. It's like at the end of dental school, they need to work on people. So they work on volunteers, and it's a far reduced price. I don't know where you live, and I don't know where there are dental schools, but I would look that up too. With regards to health and dental insurance, Mr. Money Mustache posted a few months ago, he tweeted out, he's like, hey, you should eat a lot more salads and ride your bikes. And it's like, well, that's not going to really protect you from COVID. And it was taken incorrectly, but keeping yourself healthy, keeping yourself in as good shape as you possibly can is going to go really, really, really far. Of course, having great genes is going to go really far, but keeping yourself healthy and going to the dentist. I mean, floss your teeth. Oh my goodness. If you're not flossing your teeth, everybody floss tonight. Yeah, they'll bleed all over the place and they'll stop after a while, but floss, floss, floss. So how do you cover and learn about those two as an entrepreneur? I would say start looking for companies that offer health insurance if you're working at a W-2 job, and look on the health exchange for a high deductible plan and start saving towards your deductible. I hope that was helpful. Marcel wants to know, besides obviously Sheeks Freaks, which masterminds and groups would you make sure you're a part of to help achieve financial freedom? Also, what benefits could the BP Rookie Program give us? And what are your top 5 favorite books regarding wealth and business? Okay, let's start at the top. Clearly, Sheeks and Freaks. Okay, there was a TV show called Freaks and Geeks 100 years ago. Sheeks Freaks, of course, is the best one. What mastermind and group would you make sure you're a part of to help you achieve financial freedom? I love what Choose FI is doing. They have a bunch of Facebook groups. They have local Facebook groups too. If you are near a large city, like I live in Longmont, which is near Denver, I would look up the Denver Choose FI group. I think there actually is a Northern Colorado one. And even just posting in the main Choose FI Facebook group, hey, I'm in this city, is there one close to me? They are a really great group. If you're a woman, there's a women's personal finance Facebook group that is very, very helpful. We cover a lot of women specific issues, and it's a great place to post without necessarily being mansplained about a lot of things. Sorry, guys, sometimes that happens in the main Choose FI group. What benefits could the BP program give to us? I'm assuming you're asking about the Bigger Pockets Rookie Boot Camp, and that is designed to get you from I don't have a property under contract to I have a property under contract in 90 days. There's a lot, there's hands-on teaching on, right now it's on Tuesday nights. I'm not sure what the next day is going to be. We have the entire group is broken out into their teaching assistants. I can't remember what they're called, but they will help you. Like Dion McNeely is one of the teaching assistants for the current group. And if you have a question, instead of asking the entire group, you can ask Dion, and Dion's very responsive and can help you out. It's just people who have been there, who've done it before, who can help guide you. So it's really kind of, where are you at? If you've already done 57 deals, this is a rookie boot camp. That might not be the best place for you. If you've done 0 deals, it's an awesome place for you to be. Also, what are your top 5 favorite books regarding building wealth and business? I'm going to have to think about this. So The Simple Path to Wealth. And, oh, I guess I can't do that. So what's Scott's book? Set for Life, Broke Millennial. She has 3 total books. If you look up Broke Millennial, you will find her. They're really great. All 3 are great, but also you can choose, like, one of them is money conversations to have with people in your life. One is just Broke Millennial gets you set for your finances or something. I'm sorry, I didn't remember the name of her book. The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Oh my goodness, that was like, reading that book, I was like, I was around when Your Money or Your Life came out, but I didn't read it at the time. And I was so excited to read The Psychology of Money, knowing that it was going to be in the big, the most messaged, most mentioned books about money that'll change your life, because it's just astonishing. Seth, I'm sorry. I talk a lot. I'm sorry. Thank you for coming. And what's the last one that I wanted to say? Oh, Vicki Robin, Your Money or Your Life. And you might notice that I did not mention Kiyosaki's book. I don't like it. So I read it, but for some reason I thought that he had 2 gay dads. So I was like, why doesn't his rich dad share with his poor dad? And when you read it from that mindset, the whole book doesn't make any sense at all. And I'm not a huge fan of Kiyosaki anyway. Everybody already mentions Rich Dad, Poor Dad, so you can read that one too. But these 5 books are fantastic. I love all of them. What career opportunities Bigger Pockets have? Biggerpockets.com/jobs will list all of them. If you are a Ruby on Rails programmer, we are looking for you. Or if you want to learn to be a Ruby on Rails programmer, we're also looking for, waiting for the website to pop up, but biggerpockets.com/jobs is filled with jobs that we are looking for. Your top 3 or 4 personal finance personalities to make sure we follow. I love Tiffany Aliche. She walks on water. She is focused mainly on women, but her message is for everybody. You can do it. If you're starting at 0, if you're starting at negative, she can, she will help you get your money on the right path. I will type that in for you. She is the budgetnista. She has a thing called the Live Richer Challenge. You sign up for it and she'll send you 30 or 31 days of emails that help you get your finances in order. She's great if you're starting at negative and want to get to a positive net worth. Let's see. 3 or 4 personality. I love Ramit Sethi. I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Let me write his name down too. He is, I think he's better for when you're at a positive net worth and going up. Oh boy, who else do I love so much? Joe Saul-Sehy from the Stacking Benjamins podcast. He is fantastic. He really is a smart guy. And his, how do you spell Benjamin? Benjamins. He's been podcasting for a really long time. He's got a fun show. You kind of learn in spite of yourself. Paula Pant. Oh my goodness, I love her. Paula Pant is this. Okay, so this is a really good, I started thinking about this. So Paula is very poised. She's very professional. She's very intelligent. And you never think to yourself, oh, does she really know what she's doing? Yes, she does. And I used to compare myself to Paula. This is where that imposter syndrome comes in. Oh my goodness, she's so smart. She would never ramble like I've been rambling. So smart and poised and perfect in every way. She speaks to this person, but there are people that I speak to in a different way that identify with me more than with Paula because she's so perfect. They might think that she's never made a mistake. And of course she has, I'm sure she has, but she's very intelligent sounding all the time. And sometimes I sound a bit goofy and that's okay because it's a different vibe for everybody. Anyway, Joe Saul-Sehy is more of like goofy, but definitely teaching you a lot of stuff. And Kyle Mast is the CFP that I said was on episode 200 of the Bigger Pockets Money podcast. He's brilliant. I love him so much. $20,000 in your account from Marcel, $20,000 in your account at 20 years old. What are you doing if you're looking to reach 5 by 30? I'm definitely putting some of that into index funds. I'm definitely looking for a job to continue to contribute to my retirement accounts and to be able to borrow money to invest in real estate. I'm looking at appreciation markets. I'm looking at cash flow markets, and I'm looking at the stock market. I think I got through all the questions, Dan.
I think that's it. Yeah, I think you nailed it. That is all. And we ran a bit over, but I appreciate you spending a little extra time with us, Mindy. And thanks so much for joining us. It was awesome. It was awesome.
Thank you so much. If anybody wants to reach out to me, Mindy@biggerpockets.com is my email address. I would love to talk to you. If you don't get an answer, 3 days, ping me back. It's not you, it's me. I get a lot of emails, but I really do love talking about this stuff if you can't tell. And I would love to chat with you on email, Mindy@biggerpockets.com.
Mindy, I know you have an Instagram. Do you have other social media?
I am mainly on Twitter right now. I'm hoping to ramp up the other ones.
Okay.
I have really bad eyesight and I can use Twitter on my computer, which has a bigger screen than my phone does. So I'm MindyAtBP, Mindy@BP on everything.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll let you kind of get back to your family in the mountains in Keystone. I'm a little jealous, but I'll be up there soon. So it was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Again, please email me. I love to talk about this stuff. Okay, have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And if you like this video and want to see more like it, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You should also go check out our website and Instagram, which are both linked below this video. Thanks again for watching. Now go and get your freak on.